Welcome to Wrestling with Success, the best and only podcast for the wrestlers of tomorrow. Please welcome your host, Nigel? Oh, right. Your host and future champion, Neil McMillan.
Yeah.
So, guys and girls and wrestling fans worldwide, welcome to episode 28 of the Wrestling with Success podcast. This is a special Christmas episode. Ho, 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 a special Chris Memes episode. That's right. This week I have a man who has had his tweets shared all around the world, all around the wrestling world, memes that have gone viral. This man has not only made wrestling fans around the world lol with his posts, but he has been actively training, just like ourselves, to become a wrestler and made his wrestling debut last month in November for UBW. Ladies and gentlemen, his real name is Thomas, but you wouldn't know that. You would know him as, I give to you, Wrestling Memes.
The only person who calls me Thomas is my grandmother.
Well, I'll tell you what, this is going to sound really out of touch, but so straight off the bat, I've been calling memes the wrong thing for the past 2 years. I've just
been
found
calling
this
them
out.
memes?
No, not even that. Well, memes. It doesn't even make sense.
Oh, wow.
Memes. It's like the worst one. I had this really kind of past it moment where I said, I'm interviewing a guy called Wrestling Memes to my wife, who doesn't really understand wrestling or anything, but she was like, it's not memes, you idiot, it's memes. And I was like, no, don't be daft. And then I had to Google it, and then I ended up rabbit holing somehow into YouTube, where I was watching a Chinese guy pronounce it. And so it is it's memes. Yeah, I am saying it right.
You know what? The first time I went on Wrestle Talk TV, so on Challenge TV, just after TNA, when TNA is the most watched product in England, Wrestle Talk comes on, I come on, and it's like, and here's Wrestling Memes, and I was like, good, okay. So I corrected them with haste, and said it was memes actually. But yes.
I'm glad I didn't say memes. Memes does sound a little bit more playful. But,
yeah, well then obviously ever since I went on after that, they'd always call me Memes, because they thought it was funny.
No, that's good. Oh, well, there we go. I'm out of touch. So, Tom, how did you first get into wrestling, and how did you become a fan?
That's a very good question. I'm pretty sure I was at a friend's house at maybe 10 or 11 years old, and he had Sky, and I didn't. And I think he put on something along the lines of Sunday Night Heat. And I remember the first wrestler was a match with S.A. Rios versus some random person I don't know. And S.A. Rios hit the Asaya moonsault, and I was pretty much hooked from there.
Yeah, is that when he had Lita? Is that back when he kind of...
I think it was post-Lita. It was about 2000. So I would have been about 12. It must have been towards the end of his run. And then we ended up getting Sky ourselves, and I immediately obviously went to find when the wrestling was on and how I could watch it. And I'm pretty sure it was like the week before or a couple of weeks after the invasion started. So to me, the invasion, not knowing anything about WCW or anything like that, was amazing, which is what I've always told people. If you knew nothing about WCW and didn't realise there was no Goldberg, no Sting, anything like that, the invasion was an amazing storyline, which was perfect, which is why I still love it today.
Yeah, no, that's a good point. I didn't know anything about WCW. Even Ric Flair, at the time when the invasion was on, Ric Flair came out after the invasion, wasn't it? Where he came out at the end of the year, and I was like, who's this guy? And that's really bad.
My formative learning. And now I'm like, it was only in 2000, but now I realise it's been like 17 years, and that's actually a very long time to watch wrestling.
I know. It's scary, isn't it? It's scary. So it sounds like we were kind of this, I think I was only a year ahead of you in terms of wrestling fans. But I do always wonder as well, because when wrestling fans... when you become a wrestling fan, obviously the first time you introduced to it, it's a special moment. You remember those years as your main years. But I always think to myself, wrestling fans like a couple of years ago or now, did they see I'm trying to think of a crappy year. like, say for instance now, if somebody becomes a fan of Jinder Mahal, wrestling now, and Jinder Mahal's
Hey, let's not do any insulting against the 3MB member, Jinder Mahal.
No, I know. I'm up there. I'm a Drew Galloway. I'm a Drew Galloway fan myself. So 3MB, I fully appreciate it. But I just think, Jinder Mahal, he's no Stone Cold Steve Austin. But would they have the same magic that we had when all that was going on? I don't know. I always think that. But
yeah, I know what you mean.
So you're a 3MB fan then?
I'm pretty sure I'm half the reason they were really popular, to be honest. I mean, that really sounds arrogant, but it was at a point where
I believe you.
when I was pretty much, there were maybe 2 or 3, like now there's hundreds of meme pages, but it was me and maybe 2 others. And I was just every week sharing reasons to like 3MB, and then, if they'd lose, I'd skew it, like, they come out and get destroyed by Brock Lesnar, I'd be like, reason to like 3MB number 74, they went toe to toe with Brock Lesnar and narrowly lost, or stuff like that. And it became a thing to the point where I gave them each a catchphrase, which several the main one which got over, the main one actually was for Heath Slater, which was Slater's gonna slate. Obviously, it's gonna hate Slater's gonna slate. I remember that, yeah. And it got to the point where he used it in a promo, and I absolutely lost my mind.
Wow.
It was amazing, and my friends actually met him at a WrestleMania, and were like, "Oh my god!" It's like during this time, it's like, "Oh, a friend, he does this thing, wrestling memes, and he created this thing, Slate's gonna slate," and apparently Heath Slater was just like, "Oh my god, tell that guy I love him. People say that to me all the time." Which,
wow.
Him being still my favourite wrestler, made me absolutely, lose my mind. And then obviously, the one that actually became more known was "Don't Hinder Jinder," which they still say on commentary to this day. But yeah, it's a bit weird that I've like in really
you had some influence.
Yeah, in really stupid ways, I've influenced WWE TV. Like I can name multiple occasions with multiple people. Like it's really like. For example, I was doing a collaboration with Squared Circle Tees, and we were trying to come up with a WrestleMania T-shirt. It was the year Daniel Bryan was fighting for the title. I was like, oh no, and suddenly I just came up with Yeselmania. And I'm like, oh my god, we've got to do Yeselmania. That'd be amazing. And the guy's like, yes, that's perfect. We made a sign. We sold a bunch of T-shirts and stuff. And then one of my fans, one of my followers, goes to WrestleMania. And they print off the sign that the logo that we created. It's a big sign, and it's there in the crowd. And I'm losing my mind just because I've seen my logo in the crowd as a big sign at WrestleMania, which is really cool. WrestleMania 30 when Daniel Bryan's out there wrestling for the title. And then what I've learned later is Jerry Lawler saw this sign, and he said this. Oh, I saw it, a sign in the crowd, and then he went, WrestleMania just became Yeselmania, and. Yeah, I don't think I've ever.
Wow, that was the main event of Daniel Bryan.
Yeah, and then the next day, I think Hulk Hogan was using it on SmackDown, and things like that. It's just I once
that's
did a
bizarre.
joke Paul Heyman. I did a joke that Paul Heyman recounted word for word, like it was knock knock, who's there? Mike who? Mike Lyon, Brock Lesnar defeated The Undertaker's undefeated streak at WrestleMania, which I was like, that's funny. Did the thing, tweeted Paul Heyman, he favorited it, and then later that night on Raw, he just came out and went, knock knock, and I was like, no way.
Wow.
And then he just did the whole joke.
You've got to mark out every time that happens, surely. That's got to be so surreal.
It always feels nice when those things kind of happened. And actually, the first WrestleMania I went to, which was 32 in Dallas, I met a former Raw writer, and he was writing around the time where I was convinced WWE was stealing my stupid jokes. And I was like, getting introduced to him. Oh, this is so and so. He's like, oh, I love wrestling memes, blah blah blah. And we're talking. I was like, by the way, when you were writing for Raw, did you ever take any of my jokes? He was like, maybe sometimes. And I was like, I knew it.
Wow.
So yeah, it's a bit weird that I've had a very minor but noticeable influence on the awful comedy of WWE TV.
Yeah, no, definitely, man. I mean, I've been following you on Twitter for years, and I think it was probably, was around the whole 3MB thing. I do remember quite a lot of tweets about that. So yeah, no, that's insane. So how did it kind of transition? When did you start tweeting these things? And can you remember the first couple of posts you did? And
yeah, well, it's a bit funny because Wrestling Memes is about a month older than Progress Wrestling. So when Progress goes, oh, by the way, it's our 5th birthday, I was like, oh yeah, it's mine too. I think it was January, so it'll be 6 years in about 2 weeks. I think it's January 13th or somewhere along those lines. I was very bored. I was in the Maldives actually. Very bored in the Maldives because I was actually
the picture now. But I'm imagining this now.
Well, I was it's a bit different because I was working in the Maldives for 6 months, and the capital Male is not like the picturesque beaches you could imagine. It's like the most densely populated area on Earth. It's less than a mile square wide island, and I think 100,000 people live there. So it's just people everywhere, and I'm just really bored in my flat, not really doing anything. I was like, and I kind of discovered what memes were, and they weren't really they were a thing, but only on a few message boards and stuff like that. They weren't what they are now.
Were they named memes straight at the beginning, or were they?
Yeah, they were called memes, but it was like those older ones where you used to have just impact font, somebody's head in the middle of a graphic, and there were 10 different jokes, and I was like, oh, these are good. I wonder if there's a wrestling version, and there wasn't. So I thought, why don't I try and make a wrestling version and see what happens? And I did, and within the first month, it got a couple of thousand likes really quickly. I was like, oh, that's gone well. And, a couple of pages sprouted up since then and stuff. But by the end of the year, I think I had about 30,000 followers, which was, at the time, it was like, unmatched by anyone in my kind of category, I suppose I'd say, which, as a result, gave me a kind of platform where I would suddenly, the first person to share my stuff with a name, I suppose, was Arda O'Cal, who at the time was hosting a podcast with Renee Young, then called Renee Paquette, and former WWE referee Jimmy Corderas. And Arda was actually in WWE himself for a while as Kyle Edwards, who would do he was the guy who would go, hey, coming up on WWE TV this week kind of guy. Yeah. So they started like promoting my work, saying, oh, it's really good. So I'd make them some stuff, and then they'd tell people to go like me. And then as a result, it kind of it went outwards, and then suddenly more and more guys are like, liking my stuff, and wrestlers are going, oh, this is great. And then I think still undoubtedly to me the biggest one was when Mick Foley just constantly was sharing my stuff and saying how great it was, and I've since spoken to him about this, and he's just gone, oh, you do some great content, you do some amazing stuff, and I really like it. If you think you've got something funny, send it over to me if you think I'll like it. And obviously having a name like Mick Foley support you is huge. And then I guess it also helps. This is also kind of transitions into the wrestling stuff before the wrestling, because once I got back from the Maldives, before I'd gone, I'd been doing sports journalism. So I'd been working for the South London Press in South London, in Streatham to be precise, just near Brixton. And they'd basically gone, oh, we're going to give you a page, do a story on whatever you want. So there's this show, Brit Rest Fest, and I sent them a message saying, oh, hey, I'm a journalist for the South London Press. I was interested in covering the event. Could you call me? Within about 10 minutes, I get a phone call, and it's from Alex Shane. Obviously, FWA history, and in 2000, a very big name. Or in the early 2000s, very important in the terms of the UK wrestling and the FWA specifically. Yeah. And we do a 45-minute phone call or so, just talking about the show and what's going to be on it and stuff like that. And this article goes out. So as a result, I've got to know Alex a little bit. So then I come back from the Maldives 6 months after going out and doing some stuff, and I just send out Alex a message saying, hey, I'm back if you fancy doing anything or whatever. And he invites me along to the first, or I think Wrestle Talk had been 2 tapings maybe, and he invites me. First he gets me doing some writing for FSM magazine, which I was doing the video vault for that. Then he invites me down to the Wrestle Talk, at Wrestle Talk, I meet all the Wrestle Talk crew and stuff like that. Then because of that, this is a very long-winding thing, but because of that, they take me to my first independent wrestling show, which was Progress Chapter 6, I want to say, 6 or 7, but one of the very early Progress shows. There I meet people, like Jimmy Havoc, Doug Williams, a bunch of people, and you start becoming friends with these guys, and then suddenly, before you know it, you're, a bunch of people in wrestling. You're going to shows everywhere, and because I did the meme stuff, it's like working with this is before they've had their before Brit Wrestlers it's about to take off, but it hasn't quite taken off. So, I'm trying to actively, through my Twitter, promote these guys and say, Jimmy Havoc's great, or whatever it is. And it's kind of, as a result, I don't want to say that I've been in wrestling for 5 years, but I've been around wrestling for 5 years, which, led towards the training itself, which was the start of this question.
That's good. It was such an incredible, different story as well. Like, such a surreal kind of story. But
I'm pretty sure that my becoming a wrestler story is I'm the only person in history who's ever gone in this way. So after a bunch of this, I know a bunch of wrestlers. I meet someone in Hitchin, and she's like, we do a local promotion here and we train here. It's called UBW, Ultimate British Wrestling. Why don't you come along and watch a show? And I said, okay, great. All right, let's go. I'll come along. Go to a show. It's I think it was in a small church or something, and probably 20 people there or something. It was, but it was a really good show. And I'm like, wow, I've never heard of. I think the only person I'd heard of at the time was Kelly Six. Nobody else I knew at the time, and I'm like, all these guys are. They're all really good, and then there's a bunch of guys in the crowd cheering, and they're like the trainees as well. So I'm like, oh, that was great. And then I become friends with these guys who are training at UBW. So we're going to do pay-per-views and stuff like that, watch at their house or whatever, because we're all local. And then I think we go out. I get very drunk, and the two trainers at UBW both were FWA guys. So there's Cruz and Paul Ash. Which if you look back, you'll see them in the early days of the early 2000s being very, very good wrestlers, I feel. And I'm quite drunk, and Cruz comes up to me and is like, why don't you come and watch training tomorrow? And me, as a drunken idiot, goes, yeah, that sounds really cool. All right, I'll be there. I wake up the next day and went, oh, balls, I said I'd go to training and watch. I know what he's going to do to me. So I go to the training. I sit there for about half an hour watching them, just practicing and stuff. Cruz just walks over pulling a crash mat. And I'm like, oh no, this is bad. And he goes, just come over here for a minute. Why don't you come over here? Why don't you try your bumps? And I was like, all right, okay. And because I used to have a trampoline when I was younger, I could do basic flips and stuff like that. Within 5-10 minutes, the bumps were fine. I could do a flip bump very easily. I could do stuff like that. And then, I'm having so much fun. He's like, the session finishes. He's like, same time next week then, yeah? And I was like, oh, you're a bastard, but yeah, I'll see you next week. And that was in about February this year, I want to say. Early February, maybe. And you
didn't really have a choice. You were training. Maybe you like it.
Yeah, I was training. Yeah, and Cruz is. If you go and watch Cruz's matches, he's not the kind of person you want to say no to either. So he's like, yeah, see you next week. I was like, cool. And I've been pretty much constantly going ever since, to the point where I ended up debuting in a match last month.
Oh, well, 2 matches. And how was that? How was that? Was that everything you hoped for? Was it? Were you? What was the feelings you were going through before your big debut?
Well, again, it was. I feel like I'm a very unique case on the basis that before ever stepping foot into a ring, I had over 300,000 wrestling fans following me on social media. As a result, because of this 5 years of wrestling or being around wrestling, I had by default just gain the nickname Memes. So, you know, a wrestler sees me, a fan sees me, they're, oh, all right, Memes, hello. So it kind of become my name. So then they go, well, what's your name going to be? I'm like, well, I suppose it's going to be Memes then, isn't it? Which meant I had to basically...
Gotta be, yeah.
Yeah, I had to come up with a gimmick that is me, but is also me on social media. Because, you know, I'm kind of very similar in both respects, but obviously Memes needs to be a bit funny as well. But, you know, I'm a big guy. I'm 6 foot, well, nearly 6'5", 6'4". So I need to have a combination of being a funny guy who can also destroy people, which was interesting because I haven't really seen that before. Because, you know, a lot of the BritWres guys are, you know, they're smaller guys. It's just kind of been the way it is in recent years. You know, you've got a few bigger guys like, you know, your Rampage Browns or your Yestin Reeses, but on the whole, it's a lot of guys who, you know, like to do their flips and stuff, and they can be the comedy guys, whereas I haven't really seen many intimidating comedy guys, I guess is the way I'd put it. So I kind of had to come up with a way to do that for me, which I think I did. And then, the debut happened last month. I debuted against Major Lee Rotten, a military man who is definitely from America. And I won that match. And, you know, coming out then, I was quite not worried, but it was... Like the UBW audience is very, you know, it's a family-friendly show. It's not your Progress. You know, it's not your ICW. It's a lot of kids there, maybe a few adults locally, but it's targeted at family audience. So my first thought was, will anyone actually know who I am? But then I was very lucky that quite a few fans decided to come along and see my debut. You know, along with friends and family and stuff as well. But as a result, I was at the first match and I could hear a chant for me, which should have really been reassuring, but then I got even more nervous. So I'm like, oh, good, they're chanting for me, no pressure, good. So then my music comes on, I come out, and then all the nerves go away the second I'm out there, it's fine. You know, I've done quite a bit of stuff in front of audiences as wrestling memes or as myself. For example, I got deleted last year by Matt Hardy.
Wow.
Which was a very interesting. You can find that on my page if you scroll down till about December last year.
Wow,
he put me on trial in front of about 300 people maybe. So I basically had to banter back and forth with broken Matt Hardy. So I mean, because of those kind of things, doing Wrestle Talk, you know, I used to do podcasting and stuff myself, but couldn't keep up with it. I was prepared for an audience. In effect, I'd been in front of them before. Okay.
Sorry, buddy.
I was getting the nerves, and then I think I was just more that, I'm debuting nerves, and then once I was out there, it was fine. We had the first match, went very well. I won. Then they're called Robbie's Boys, which was Furio, Robbie Boy with an H, BHOY, that is. Brad Tannen and Fran Knox came out and beat me up in the best way. So I go out, head held low, being helped out, nearly unconscious, and then later on in the night they've got a 8-man tag, Survivor Series style. They take out one of the guys before the match, so it's 3-on-4. So then the match starts and they're down a man. It gets down to 2 versus 1, at which point my music hits and I come in and save the day. So that was my debut. Which it pretty much went exactly as I'd hoped it would go. We live streamed it as well, so this is another weird thing that is probably only applicable to me or very few people, but most people have their first wrestling match and then never have to worry about it again, because it's in front of 20 people who will never remember it. I live streamed mine on Wrestling Memes, so as a result it got about 15,000 views on Facebook.
Wow.
Yeah.
Do you have to deal with trolls on a daily basis, being on social media so much? Do you have a lot of trolls to deal with?
Oh yeah, well it's not as bad these days. I don't think. I used to get. It used to be that I was very easily triggered. That someone wrestling's fake or that shit or whatever they're saying. Then I'm like having a massive argument with them, and then I realised it's a lot easier just to not respond and just hide or unfollow them or block them, whatever you want to do, than to engage because they want to engage. That's why I usually won't block them. I will just hide their comment or whatever because that way they don't get the satisfaction of being blocked because for some reason people are very proud of being blocked. And then
so strange.
It's social. I always think because I would have none of this if it wasn't for social media. But social media is the best and worst thing about the internet. It's terrible / amazing. But yeah, so I have to deal with them, but I've grown wiser to dealing with it these days, which is probably a good thing because that was one of my not a concern, but I was thinking, if I debut in a match, I was imagining a lot of people were going to start going
if I had 300,000 followers and wrestling,
and you know what, there were a couple of guys, but on the whole, it has positive. I've had a total of 3 matches over 2 shows now, and on the whole, it's been really, really positive, which I'm really, really happy about because, I'm not the best wrestler in the world by any stretch of the imagination. I've had 2 matches, but everyone who's followed me doing stupid jokes about Heath Slater is now supporting what could be a thing for me in the future. So it started very well, which I'm very happy about, and very grateful that people are letting that happen effectively.
Yeah. Well, I mean, I think the main thing as well that stands out about wrestling memes is the fact that it's all it's just funny lightheartedness. It's not kind of you see so many negative hatred for wrestling and all these opinions, and it's all negative. Whereas yours is it just sees the lighter side of things. So it's refreshing.
I always try to be really positive, especially at the point when I realised, wrestlers are actually seeing this stuff. I don't. These are your heroes and the people that you've grown up watching. I don't want to offend them or upset them. So when I post things, there have been times when I've made a joke and I've gone, oh no, I shouldn't have made that joke, and I'll delete it or whatever.
Yeah.
But I try and keep it generally very positive if I can. I think it's a pretty positive community I've sort of created. I try and keep everything as positive as I can. That there's certain topic. It's like some sort of big controversy happens, and then people are like, oh no, you're doing these jokes and sending me these really insulting jokes about things. And I'm like, I'm not going to share that. That's not what I'm about. I think that's probably the reason why. Because there are a lot of other meme pages which will have added 15 admins who will make 1,000 jokes a day, but half of them are it's kind of like I don't want to give away my idea. Well, not my idea because memes aren't they're a universal thing, but it's kind of
the way you do things.
This is what I want to be here, and there are people now where I probably could go, oh, you're a specific person I trust to do this because I know what your kind of content is. Yeah. But there's a lot of negativity out there, and I try my best.
No, you do very well. I mean, that's one thing I thought of is the fact that for tweeting all that positive stuff, I said it's got to be sometimes that you're having a bad day. And you just think, do you feel obligated sometimes to send stuff out, or is it all what do you always just enjoy what you're tweeting?
Sometimes if I haven't posted for a couple of days, I'm like, I need to come up with an idea, but then it's usually rubbish and then gets 100 likes. I'm like, well, why did I do that in the first place?
Exactly.
But I used to be a lot more. Oh my god, I've got to get at least 2 or 3 things up a day, and now maybe if I've got a very specific the Broken Hardys, for example, when they were in their absolute hot streak in their first few months of TNA, I was putting up so much stuff a day because I was just creatively just going, oh, this is an idea, this is an idea, this is an idea.
Yeah.
But now if it's a case where if I watch Raw and I'm like, well, there was nothing really that funny in it, then I won't post anything about Raw. It's a lot less of a stress to me these days. I used to get a lot more, I don't know, not competitive about it, but I felt
Pressure
like
on yourself.
kind of that thing. But it was, now is also, now because obviously I train, I've got a lot more time dedicated to wrestling while also making memes, working, doing whatever else. Like that's actually one of the weird another weird thing for me is I've had to it's like, well, I want to push my wrestling career, and I've based it around the last 5 years of stuff I'd done, but at the same time I know if I push my wrestling career too much, I'll drive people away. But as long as it's finding the happy medium, which now is like this week I've had this match, and as a result, I've posted a few GIFs or videos or whatever, and as a result I'm like, wow, I need to make more memes so it balances out and it's not just me, because it's a bit weird that I like the first couple of years I didn't even mention my name until I started doing a couple of podcasts. Like if I posted a photo of myself, I'd Photoshop my own logo over my face. Like I kept it completely mysterious, and I'm still kind of not in that mindset, but it's kind of do they want to see the memes or do they want to see me?
Exactly.
It's a great tool to use, but I don't want to push myself too much at the risk of driving away, the content that I'm creating.
No, it's good. I like it. I think it's the fact that you're sharing the journey as well. So not only do you have the kind of catalogue of your memes, but the fact you're sharing your journey as well, that would give you I think it would give you additional rather than kind of driving away. It would kind of keep that interest as well. But I know exactly what you mean.
Yeah, well, like these days I keep the Facebook. So far I've live streamed all my matches on the Facebook and posted a couple of bits about training and posted the videos I've created, montage and promos and stuff like that. But then if you take the Twitter, if you look at the two, my Twitter is a lot more personal these days because, Twitter is all about interaction. So, I'll make jokes with, for example, Leva Bates, again, because of wrestling, has become one of my very good friends. So as a result, I will spend a lot of time on Twitter insulting her because she doesn't understand things because she uses American terms. So, we'll have arguments about biscuits and cookies, for example, for hours, to the point where now people, if we have a conversation, will start talking about biscuits and cookies. But, lots of Brit Rest guys, I'll try and, put them over and get them, some spotlight if I can. That's a lot of what I'm doing at the moment with UBW, because you've got so many, like these guys have only been training for a year, but they're already, or some a little longer, but in general they've been training for a year or so, and you've got people like Evan Flo, who I've tagged with and wrestled against in the last month, and you've got Tommy Kyle, who's the UBW champion. He's only been wrestling for just over a year, and he's already amazing. And you've got Paddy O'Connor, and Lukachu is one of my favourite wrestlers ever now, and I've only seen him wrestle about 5 matches. He's if you haven't seen Lukachu, he's a luchador Pikachu is the best way to describe it. Look him up.
I've seen some of his images around. Yeah, I've seen.
He is at the again, because of the wrestling means, maybe I've got a bit more of a way into wrestling in promotion and stuff, and there's this list of guys that I want to wrestle, but right at the top I'm like, I want to wrestle Lukachu. That's my main thing. I want to wrestle Lukachu. I want to wrestle him right away.
Imagine the memes now.
Oh, exactly. I legit, I want to catch Lukachu. That's what I want to do in a match.
But, it sounds good. It sounds good.
Yeah, exactly. It's that kind of thing, and then more good guys. Spike Valentine is a guy who should be wrestling everywhere, like literally everywhere. He's so good, and it's So now it's a lot of Brit Rest has kind of found its own feet, and I'm not saying that I gave Brit Rest its feet in the first place, but when it didn't have its feet, I was trying to plug your Jimmy
help as well as you can.
Yeah, help plug these guys who deserve a spotlight. And now with UBW, I'm in a position where I can help promote UBW as well as promoting my own career. So that's kind of the thing I try and do with Twitter, is just if somebody is deserving of praise or recognition, I'll try and get them some praise or recognition. And that's kind of my mindset when I go into social media.
Oh, definitely. It's always a very positive mindset, so it's good. Trying to help everyone around you, and it's all in all, it's all trying to help wrestling as well. So, no, I get it, man. Definitely get it. So, yeah. I mean, with all the kind of interactions you've had, what are some of the top names? You said Mick Foley, obviously, but I mean, who are some other people that you've interacted with on Twitter who have seen your tweets? I mean, have you ever had anyone? Have you ever kind of got some heat or some big stars for a tweet that you've put out and they've read it the wrong way? Or
well, you know what, one of my rare negative moments actually was there was a phase in BritWres where everybody, like every week, was painting themselves up as the Flash or, Superman, or they were basically, Finn Balor was coming out and changing his gimmick every time, which was really cool. And then everyone else was like, oh, look what he's doing. Why don't I do that? So then I saw somebody, paint himself like Superman or something, just some random Twitter. And I was like, can we stop painting ourselves up, please? It's, save it for a special occasion, something like that. Save it for a special occasion. And then one of my delightful fans tagged Mikey Whiplash and said, "What do you think of this, Mikey?" And I was like, oh God, please don't respond, Mikey Whiplash, who immediately responds, obviously, one of the scariest people in all of BritWres. Just going, oh, well, something he said. And I was like, no, I don't mean you. You wear paint as a gimmick. That's fine. And what I meant was the people who just, randomly do it because they're wrestling some random person on a random show. And, there was no, correcting him or anything. And, what I'd meant was, by all means, paint yourself, but paint yourself when you're going to win the title. Yeah, it's a main event, not just in a random first match in front of 20 people over there for no reason. So yeah, there have been a couple of incidents where I've been like, oh no, why have I done that? Although there was another time when one of the not many people have blocked me on Twitter, but for some reason, well, I know why. So Titus O'Neil blocked me on Twitter.
What? No.
Right? Wait for the reason. So, and I've also got a photo with Titus O'Neil, and he was very nice at the time. But, Titus O'Neil has, we were at, what were we at? We were at the Shrek Experience in London, me and a few friends, and it's like, oh, take a photo with Shrek, and we kept doing Titus poses and everything. So we're like, oh, Titus pose, and everyone did the the ura thing, including Shrek. So we're like, oh look, we're with Titus O'Neil, we did this with Shrek, and then seconds later I was blocked, and I was like, what? Why has this happened? And then I suddenly realised, oh, Titus O'Neil thinks I'm comparing him to Shrek. Whoops, that was a mistake. So
you've triggered Titus O'Neil.
Really accidentally. It wasn't supposed to be you look like Shrek. It's look what we made Shrek do. Not that you are Shrek. So yeah, there's a couple of people here and there. But I mean, on the whole, it's really, really, really positive. Like the stuff I put out there isn't negative. So, or especially, I'm not going to tag people with anything that could be considered negative. As a result, I've got lots of like one of my favourite ones was myself and Gregory Iron, just social media friends. We never actually met in real life, but ourselves and Kayfabe News were doing an online campaign to bring back Mordecai, because we loved Mordecai as a gimmick. Not many people did, but we did.
I liked it.
Well, there we go. And he gets Twitter, and someone's like, oh my god, he's on Twitter, and tweets me. I'm like, oh my god, bring back Mordecai. And about 20 minutes later, he sends a selfie on Twitter to all of us, like, just got this out the attic for you, and he's wearing the full Mordecai outfit. No. And I was like, yes! And then about a year later, he wrestled a match, or a couple of years later, he wrestled a match with Gregory Iron as Mordecai. And I'm like, yes, I've affected things through social media. So, yeah, like, it's generally positive. Like, another really good positive one I had was with Fandango, in fact. Because at the point when everyone started liking Fandango's song and doing the dance, especially in England, I suggested, hey, why don't we try and get this to the top of the iTunes charts, or to the top of the charts, in fact. as a kind of a joking suggestion, went to bed, woke up, and I've got so many tweets. I then used the hashtag Fandango Revolution, and I wake up and Fandango Revolution is trending worldwide, and I'm like, oh my god! And then you had that whole couple of weeks where they're reporting about all the things, and I was literally up for 3 or 4 days trying to get this song into the top 40, so they'd have to play it on Radio 1, and to the point where we got Fandango into an argument with Everton because they refused to play it, and then eventually did play it, and then you see lots of stuff with Fandango about Everton, and then it's not that we're the biggest fans of them, but the Sun got behind our campaign, and lots of random things like that where suddenly Fandango follows me and it's just like, oh well, thank you for what you did, and I got to go to Raw and see 20,000 people doing the Fandango dance, and it was a very interesting time, and it ended up really disappointingly missing out on the top 40 by 256 sales. It was like 41, I think, or 42, and I was like, I was so close, which apparently would have been the first song in the top 40 that doesn't have any vocals in it. The first one since 1912 or something. So we almost did it, but as a result, I again randomly affected TV through random stupid shit on social media.
Or just through some memes as well. And like you said, you're a bottom texter.
Yeah, bottom texter. I mean, well, at this point, memes have evolved, so there's barely any bottom text these days. I'm mostly videos at the moment.
That's true.
But yeah, memes have kind of changed as well, so I've adapted to that. But yeah, I've got because of being positive and not offending, well, trying not to offend anyone, and generally being able to be funny enough. I've had great interactions, very, very much with BritRest. I know the guys at Progress really well. Fight Club Pro, they're always really positive with me. Mark Dallas at ICW is always really great. You got guys like Grado, Jimmy Havoc's one of my really good friends. The Geezers. I can keep going on with BritRest because I've got so many friends there now as a result of making stupid memes. But they Brit Wrestling has properly welcomed me. Which is it's a very good thing to do. Now we'll see how it goes with the wrestling, but and then more on a wider scale, I've got people following me now. Aforementioned Mick Foley, Kevin Owens. It's a very long list that I'm very lucky to have, because I always think it's probably the thing of that most people do, whether it's kind of a self-criticism thing. But I'm like, okay, every now and then I'm like, okay, that was a pretty good joke. But most of the time I think I'm not that funny, but it seems to be working.
Yeah, something I'm doing is working. Fair enough. In terms of your actual training for your wrestling, what things were you struggling with? What things are, even now, that you're kind of struggling with that you want to try and work on?
It's kind of like, I mean, I guess it's one of the main things is, well, obviously at the moment, because I'm not, well, I mean, 3 matches in, I haven't got to the point of just being able to work a match as you go. Memory is a big thing. Like, my first match went pretty well, forgot a couple of things, and then you're beating yourself up afterwards, but the match looks perfectly fine. So memory is one that I want to really, strengthen, like, working out the logistics of a match, I guess. And then it's also kind of learning to, for me at least, is learning to work with a smaller guy. Because as I've said, most of the guys that I'll wrestle are, quite, small guys. So I kind of have to learn how to, and, at the moment I'm the good guy, so I need to learn how to get beaten up by them effectively, while keeping myself credible and making it look like I'm not just letting them beat me up. So it's kind of working out
psychology,
different bits of psychology. Yeah, it's working out the psychology properly and getting that down. I'm pretty happy with my my ring work enough in general. My cardio could improve a lot, but it's stuff I'm working on at the moment. So yeah, it's the psychology of things that I want to work out, and that will kind of come as I work with more people and work more matches. So It's just kind of a continuing progression of working new things and learning new holds and obviously learning sick dive moves. I haven't done it off the ropes yet, but I can do a moonsault. So I really want to pull out a moonsault.
Wow, I haven't even. I think I attempted one once, and I damn near broke my neck. And I think there's a video about it somewhere. But it's yeah.
What we did was we went to, because I've never been able to do anything backwards, basically. Because I had the trampoline, front flips and stuff were fine, twists are fine, everything else is fine, but I couldn't do any sort of backflip. So we went to a gymnastics gym in Milton Keynes, which we go to most Thursdays actually. We call it Flip Gym, even though we rarely do flips.
Is it one of those ones with all the big, all the big padding things?
Yeah, well, it's got it's actually really good for practicing as well, because it's got like spring-loaded floors, so you can take ring-style bumps on it, and it's got crash mats everywhere and trampolines and whatever, and it's got this pit. So we went up to the pit, and I was like, right, I'm not leaving this gym until I can do a backflip. And then proceeded to do a perfect moonsault, and I was like, "Oh, good, okay, we can go now."
Completed it.
Yeah, so I can do it into a foam pit, but can I do it off the top rope? Is what I have not discovered yet. So
it's a big ask. I mean, that's good that you can even do that. That's what I had in mind. But I had, like I said, I tried to do the backflip. It was with Flip Gordon. He was holding my hand throughout the whole thing. Nearly broke my neck, and I was like, right, and I tried to come home, and I was like to the wife, right, you, me and the kids were going jump giants at the weekend, I'm going to do a backflip. And she was like, no, we're not going just so you can do a backflip. I was like, yes we are, we're going. And then she ends up leading the way, and she always gets what we want. So I am yet to go to jump giants to do this, but I'm glad that I've heard that it worked for you.
Well, once you've done one, it's just kind of working out gravity in your head. I know that sounds a bit silly, but once you've done one, you're like, oh, yeah, that's how it works. And then even if, obviously I've done practice moonsaults since, they're not always perfect. Sometimes they go a bit Vader-esque, but I can always get over. So I'm like, I just need to do this in a ring. So I need a decent ring with decent ropes, and I'll probably give it a go.
Well, we're all looking out for it now. We're all waiting for that meme to come out now.
Yeah, if I hit it...
I've said mem. It's me.
Well, yeah, if I hit it...
I've gone the whole episode without saying it.
If I do hit it, it is called the meme salt. So I've got the name now. I just need to hit it. Maybe I'll save it for WrestleMania, yeah.
Yeah. So, I mean, what's some advice as well? I think one thing that you could give a lot of advice on is social media being such a powerful tool to getting talent over, to try to publicise themselves, and, the do's and the don'ts of how to actually kind of build yourself up on social media. What are some tips that you could offer some trainees looking to do that?
The first thing is make sure that you have Twitter. I know that sounds really stupid, but half the people at UBW didn't have Twitter, and I'm like going to them every week. I'm like, go get Twitter so I can put you over. Even if you gain one fan from a tweet, it will build and it will keep building, and your social media profile will improve, and if you've got a good social media profile, then more people will want to book you. Yeah. So the first thing is just make sure you have Twitter. The second thing is learn how to do video editing and GIFs, because GIFs and video editing are the most important thing on social media at the moment. One clip of you, even if you've had the worst match of all time, if there was a clip of you doing a double moonsault for some reason, then people will suddenly be interested in you. So learn to do that, and then when you're on social media and you're, insulting someone randomly, think to yourself, in 5 years' time when someone digs up this tweet, is it going to be okay that it's here? Which a lot of people are falling foul of at the moment. So that's probably like the main tips. Just don't say anything on social media that you wouldn't say to somebody in person. Even if you're being a heel, be a heel in the right context. Yeah. And try and try and
full ISIS or Nazi or
exactly. And try to just try and generally be positive. Don't go out and start doing cryptic tweets about how other people are terrible people or whatever, because it will just end badly for you, or people will start talking about you, or whatever it is. Just try and be positive. Even if you don't like someone, just be positive or don't respond to them. It's that simple. Like, I mean, as we're recording this, we've been in the last couple of weeks where people. Well, it's a sitcom I like to call BritRest Twitter, where something will go down on BritRest Twitter, and then you can spend 20 minutes trying to work out what it was, because people are either being cryptic, or it's just one person responding to loads and loads of wrestlers, and then, you know, whatever, saying they're victimized or whatever it is, and it's just because they're being given fire to fan a stupid flame. So it's about knowing who to respond to and what to respond, and just generally be positive. And if you want to get your stuff shared, my main hint is original content, which as a wrestler you should be doing anyway. So if you can do something original, something no one's seen, then that is a lot more likely to be shared than if you go, hey guys, look, here's the pump kick I hit, or, you know, something like that. It's all pretty simple stuff, but it can go very wrong very quickly if you're not staying on top of it.
Yeah, and I think the main thing as well, the reason for the majority of your success with this as well, and which is what sets you apart as well from, like you said, all the other wrestling memes or memes or all these different variations that you probably tried to copy you on Twitter along the way, is that the fact you've just stayed positive, but not only that, you stayed consistent. That's what I always try. Consistency is my main word in life. That consistency and compromise, but consistency is the fact you've been doing it for 5 years, and you've been doing it more or less every Raw, every SmackDown, every wrestling event. Yeah, and I think that's what builds towards your success as well. There's a lot of people who kind of do it for a few weeks, and then they kind of give up after.
And then there'll be a lot of people who, the amount every week, the amount of requests I get from random person X saying I'd really like to be an admin. And sometimes I get a little bit annoyed at that, so I'll respond, oh yeah, so I need a full CV from you, a clean driver's license, and it only pays $20,000 a year, is that okay? You know, I start treating it like a job interview, and then obviously never give them the job. But so never ask people for admin. There's one. I mean, that's not really something that wrestlers would do anyway. But I also, the reason that wrestling memes has become as successful as it was when I created wrestling memes. Wrestling memes didn't exist. I wasn't copying off a page. I wasn't doing any of that. There might have been the odd joke here or there on some other random page, but there wasn't a specific thing called wrestling memes, and that's why I managed to make that my identity, so to speak. Well, now officially my identity.
It officially is as well. I mean, it's your wrestling gimmick. There's no other wrestling memes who can say that. Exactly. Yeah, let's talk about that as well. You've recently won the UBW Infinity Championship.
Well, this is something that will go very well with the whole social media thing, because I've successfully won a 24/7 title. So
brilliant.
As a result, I'm not quite sure what's going to happen, but my title is technically on the line right now. So there's probably going to be some interesting stuff in between shows with that belt. Is why I'd probably say watch out for that, because it'll be coming soon. But yeah, it's a title I'll be defending all the time, as long as I can keep it. And if I lose it, I'm going to try and win it back.
Great idea. That is a great idea.
But yeah,
you have to let me know your address after.
yes, definitely.
That's brilliant. That's a great idea.
Yeah. But and then it's basically just, you know, the reason I forgot what I was going to say. I was just talking about the success of wrestling memes first. The reason it's successful is because it's all original, and it's the same thing with this belt I've just won. It's you know, I could win any title. Well, I couldn't win any title. That sounds really big-headed. I wasn't supposed to. But you know, I could win a title and then, you know, defend it at the next show, and that'd be pretty good. Like with this Infinity title, it was only created a couple of months ago, and it doesn't have a huge profile at the moment. So what I want to do now I've got this title, is give it the platform that I can give it, and then hopefully, even when I'm not the champion, it will help other people who have that belt and help them, you know, help get some names on UBW and, you know, etc., etc. So it's all about constantly trying to build positively, no matter what you're doing. And I'm in a very unique situation where I've had 3 matches and won a championship, but it's all about building positively and hopefully building on that and making things better and bigger, and that's what I want to do.
Yeah, it's such a surreal story, but it's one hell of a story as well, and that's why I wanted to share it with the listeners as well, for people training as well. Lots of good advice in terms of social media conduct and just being a positive guy. And one of the main things that comes out of all these podcasts, the main message coming out of all the podcasts, training to become a wrestler, the main message is don't be a dick.
Don't be a dick. That's
right. That is as simple as it is.
I did actually steal it from Progress, but if you look on the Facebook page, it says there's one rule: don't be a dick. That's all the rules. So that's literally the rule of wrestling.
So you're telling me it's already out there? He's already trying to come. Damn. No, well, I like it. I need to find that post and like it.
Yeah, if you're not a dick, people will like you. If people like you, they will tend to help you out more. You'll help them out as well because you're friends. And as a result, it will help you as a trainee wrestler or wrestler in training, whatever. It'll help you build your own brand, and it'll help you get on shows. And in general, if you're positive, people will be positive back. So that's basically the main tip. Like, you could, I would rather have a match with a guy who's been wrestling 3 weeks than wrestling a 25-year veteran who's just an absolute dickhead for the entirety of the time we're planning this match.
Very true.
There's people who are, it's the same thing. I won't put over someone who I don't like, because if I don't like them, then they're probably not worth liking. I mean, that again sounded egotistical, wasn't supposed to, but like my attitude is always generally positive. So if you're coming at me negatively and I'm responding to you with positivity, and you're still being negative for whatever reason, then it's not going to help you, it's not going to help me, and it's not really going to help anyone, unless you're being a heel, in which case it's fine, which is very confusing in wrestling.
Yeah, it is. The lines get a little bit grey sometimes.
Yeah, well, you kind of tell the line, hopefully. You can work out when it's a work and when it's just someone being a dick. Yeah, exactly. And don't be one of those. Don't
be a dick, ladies and gentlemen. Well, there it is. So now, Tom, and I'm not going to call you Thomas, it's Mr. Wrestling Memes, Mimi, it's fan time. Fan time means it's quick fire questions to get your answers as a wrestling fan. It's as simple as that. So, Mimi, what should headline next year's WrestleMania?
Heath Slater versus The Rock.
Oh, nice. What do you think? Who do you think should win the first Women's Rumble and then main event for the women's title at Mania?
James Ellsworth in drag. No, I'm joking.
That's not a bad shout.
I would like, it won't happen, but I would like Rosemary to win the Women's Royal Rumble.
Yeah, that's different. That's an out there one.
She is my favourite women's wrestler. I love her. She's amazing.
Okay, fair enough. If you could work with one person on the roster today, who would it be? And it's not allowed to be Heath Slater.
Oh, bloody hell! I
thought I'd cut that off. I knew it was coming.
Okay. Oh God, I'm trying to think of anyone who's on the roster. I would like to work with. I can't think of anyone. I would like to work with. Oh God, I can't think of anyone. Why am I freezing on every wrestler?
I've took away Heath Slater from you.
I know. I was ready
Powerless.
to Heath Slater, and now it's all. I'll be Nick Miller. I'll wrestle Nick Miller of TM61. There we go.
Oh, wow. Okay, no, I like that. It's a different one. Okay, one match that you would recommend everyone watch, that is Wrestling Match 101. Entertainment, drama, athleticism, a bit of everything within it. One match that you would recommend anyone go to watch.
All right, well, it's my favourite match ever, and I think it's the perfect ladder match, and it's Jeff Hardy versus The Undertaker on Raw for the Undisputed title.
That was a great thing. Ending to that, you almost thought he was going to win the title then as well.
Oh, I remember being so excited. Time. Yeah, Jeff Hardy Undertaker.
It's a different match. I like that. Okay, well, do you have any favourite superstar to meme about? It's got to be someone. Heath Slater.
Obviously.
So,
actually, you know what?
I want to see it now. I want to see the picture of you and Heath Slater.
What's the what?
I want to see a picture now. I need to kind of see a WrestleMania moment with you and Heath Slater. I think that's the
dream.
That's the end goal, really, isn't it?
but yeah, no, actually, I would change that to the answer is Matt Hardy, because he's if you watch the video back of him putting me on trial, I call him the most memeable wrestler of all time.
I'm going to get this video. I'm going to post a link on it for the podcast listeners as well on the post. But I'm looking forward to this. But I've only said a couple of weeks ago, I didn't see this whole broken Matt Hardy before. I never really got it. I never used to watch TNA. And so this now, I've seen the videos on for WWE, and I just started to see it, and the magic that is broken Matt Hardy. So I am now like I'm full on broken Matt Hardy. I'm fanboying out. I'm watching all the old videos back, and it's just magical. It's just incredible. Him talking to a goldfish playing chess on Raw. Incredible.
Yeah, well, just as an aside here, so obviously I did this thing with Matt, and it was, spoiler alert, it was pre-planned, even though I got plucked out of the audience. I'm very sorry to say.
But you spoiled it.
But I was, as a result, I was. First, I'll tell you about the day. In fact, before we get to our next question, quickly. So I'm there early, and Kenny, who was promoting the event, comes over, and says, "Tom, are you busy?" And I was like, "No." He's like, "Do you mind babysitting Maxwell Hardy?" And I was like, "Yeah, I'll do that. Where is he?" So then I proceeded to go into a room where Rebby Hardy was with Maxwell, and I was talking to her for a bit, and then she left, and then I'm just in a room with Maxwell Hardy, and also perfectly for Matt Hardy, he starts making me a salad in a box, which is just grapes, and I was like, "Oh, you're definitely your father's son. Grapes, amazing." And then then Matt comes in and we're talking about it, and I was like, "Oh, I do this thing called wrestling memes." "Oh yeah, I love it." And he was like, he said to me, when I came up with a broken gimmick, I was hoping for the exact reaction I got. I wanted like you, and I wanted Matthew from Botchamania. I wanted people like that to make stuff about the gimmick, which is what would make it successful. So I was like, "Oh wow, Matt Hardy thought of me when he created Broken Matt Hardy," which was just like a mind-boggling thing in itself. So yeah, Matt Hardy, the most memeable wrestler of all time.
Just everything in that story is just so surreal. Everything in that story is just so surreal. Not only King Maxwell to then. Oh man! Yeah, honestly,
everything is the most surreal thing ever.
I don't know how you process it.
Yeah, it's all bizarre, like one thing after the other.
Wow. So I mean, what's next for wrestling memes then? What are some of the goals for 2018?
Well, yeah, match with Lukaku, obviously. But no, like I guess it's 2018. I've written a list of some of the guys I'd like, and girls, in fact, that I'd like to wrestle or wrestle with. And I'm keeping that list secret for now. But it's kind of, I've put a realistic list of people I could wrestle together. So I put 10 names on that list, and I hopefully by the end of the year will get to wrestle those 10 people. Whether that happens or not, we don't know. But if I at least fill half of that, then I'll be very happy with my year. And then it's just more help UBW grow as a promotion, because they've trained me, and I want them to succeed. They put on such great shows that more people should be watching them. And then it's just try and. I mean, I'm already out there, but get myself out there in terms of Brit wrestling. So it's, get better as a wrestler, hopefully wrestle some decent names, and have some good matches. So that's as much as I can hope for. I mean, I've already used a remote control car this year, so I can't really use that next year.
I saw that. Great audience. Great audience.
I'll probably be using this year a lot the hashtag always innovating when I come up with some sort of stupid shit and do it in a match. For example, it didn't quite come. I don't think it came quite across in the footage of my last match, but I've started countering chops with high fives. For example,
no, I did see that. I spotted that in the
high five counter, which then counters into a slap into their face, followed by a deadly Carly chop, which is now part of my arsenal. So, it's just try and make wrestling fun, do some fun things in wrestling, and hopefully, get my name out there a bit more in terms of the wrestling side of things rather than the joke side.
No, definitely. Well, I mean, The only kind of advice I'd say is just keep doing whatever you're doing, because whatever you're doing is working, and building on the journey. And it's nice to share all your journey and see how you're getting along as well. And I'm a fan. I'm a fanboy. So anybody who's listening to this right now, if you're not following wrestling memes,
you're dead to me. You're all dead to me.
Yeah. Are you a wrestling? Yeah. Are you a wrestling fan for one, and two, the Infinity title's on the line at any time. So.
Exactly.
You've got to follow for his location.
In a video, it could be anywhere around the world against anyone. This is another thing that, because I know some wrestlers, we'll see how that goes. But hopefully I'll be maintaining my belt, but I don't know who against at the moment. So, yeah, we'll see how that goes. And, yeah, the other thing would just be go and follow Ultimate British Wrestling, go and support them. If you're a wrestler and you think you might be good enough for UBW, maybe drop them a line and say, hey, I'm a wrestler, and I think I could beat Memes for that Infinity title. Book me.
Exactly those words as well.
Exactly, yeah. But yeah, go follow me, obviously, but more importantly, go and follow UBW and follow the guys that wrestle there, because they really do deserve a much bigger spotlight than they're getting. Like, after a year of wrestling, they're putting on matches that I would, I'd go to Progress or any big promotion in the UK and be happy with the match I've seen. Like, they're really, really talented guys. And then, that's down to our trainers as well, Paul, Ash and Cruz. Like, if you're in the Hitchin area and you find yourself wanting to do some training, or then, coming down to UBW on a Sunday will, that'll definitely help you out.
Definitely, I'll have to pop down myself one time. Definitely.
Oh, definitely.
As it's Christmas Day, and there may be, if anybody's listening to this today on Christmas Day, thank you. But also, if you're listening to this on Christmas Day, what the fuck are you doing? Go and eat something and have a drink.
Yeah, and then go back and watch my Christmas themed hardcore match where I won a championship. I ate a mince pie while hip tossing people. For God's sake.
Well, we've just mapped out people's Christmas evening. So if you're listening to this now, thank you very much. Go do as you're told. But as a Christmas gift to you, Wrestling Memes, I would like to give you this opportunity to give us the perfect wrestling meme episode name. Episode 28.
Slater's gonna slate. It rhymes with it.
So episode 28, Slater's gonna slate by Wrestling Memes. You happy with that?
I'm happy.
That sounds good. I like it. It goes with the 8 as well. That's why you're good at what you do. I put you on the spot and you delivered. Well done, sir. Well done. Thank you very much for taking the time out to speak with us today and sharing your incredible surreal story. It means a lot.
Well, thank you for having me. I always love doing podcasts, so this is always fun.
No problems at all. No problems at all. So, guys and girls, that is it from me this week. Merry Christmas. And thank you for following my journey, listening to this show. And guys and girls, I look forward to potentially wrestling a match with you all soon. I will speak to you all next week.
Yeah.
Thank you for listening to the podcast. Thank you for following my journey. It means a lot that you're all joining me along for the ride. And not only that, I'm hoping you're getting some inspiration out of this. This is what I'm doing it for, is to try to inspire people, try to get more people into wrestling, try to get exposure for all these guests, all these great guests and future guests. And if you guys want to help, it would be much appreciated if you could go over to iTunes and leave this podcast a review, Wrestling with Success. And I want you to be as honest as possible. If you hate the show, if you hate my voice, if you want me to speak a little bit higher, if you want me to speak a little bit lower, then please let me know on the feedback. Any sort of review. That's all I'm asking for, guys. It helps get the names out there for all the previous guests and the ones to come. Thank you again for listening. It means a lot. Much love.